Good morning and welcome to Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV. I'm your host, Udwa Kamimo. Parliament has approved the motion setting up a committee to probe the Electoral Commission, the IBC. The Joint Select Committee on IBC Reforms now has 30 days to work out whether the current commissioners should stay or go and what changes should be made to the country's electoral system. The motion and the Select Committee are outcomes of negotiations between the governing Jubilee side and the opposition Chord to break a stalemate and weeks of demonstrations over the IBC. So today's guests are Kakamega Senator Bonnie Halwale, he is on the Select Committee representing Chord, and John Waiganjo, the TNA MP for Oljoro Rock, who's on the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, which is also hearing a petition against the IBC, rather. And as always, we have the regular panel of Mutagi Njau and David Makali. So good morning and welcome to Cheche. So, Mr. Halwale, I'll start with you. The motion was passed yesterday. You haven't had your first sitting yet. Give us the terms. What's your mandate?
Maybe let me start by clarifying what you've just said in your introduction. The important thing is not a decision on whether to remove the commission or not. I think by dint of accepting that the talks should start, it was an admission by both sides that IBC commissioners should go. What will be a little bit more difficult is the decision on the Secretariat.
Okay, so, Senator,
so the motion
we'll come to all of that in a minute, but just give us the remit of your terms, and then we'll come to the
details.
The details, yes, thank you.
So basically, it is that we inquire into allegations against the commissioners and the Secretariat. And based on the findings, we put legal mechanisms and recommend removal of the commissioners and maybe the Secretariat.
Okay.
And following that, we are expected also to come up with reforms, both legal, on policy, and on the institution, that can make the institution more transparent in conducting the 2017 election in August. They have specifically put there the date of August to clear the air that some people thought maybe there is an attempt to change the election date, and to make it more secure, more accountable. And then finally, if the above three have worked, we are expected to draft a bill which we shall bring before both houses, or bills that will be able to help us achieve all that I've said.
Yes. How will the work be structured?
Again, they have said that on its first sitting, the Joint Select Committee will craft its own rules on procedures.
So you're convened by both speakers?
Yes.
And then? And
then we will sit and agree on the procedures that we shall use, timelines and so on, so long as it happens within the 30 days period. Yeah.
So at the end of the 30 days, we should have a bill?
Yes, a bill or bills.
Or bills.
Yes.
And then who implements, and how does the voting take place?
The voting has been structured so that each member of the committee has got one vote. And for a decision to be adopted, it must carry 2/3 majority of the votes cast, which makes it fairly secure, because that means 10 people, at least 10 people, must support that decision before it passes.
Okay.
Yes.
After that, you go to Parliament.
Yes. After we've made the decision, after 30 days, then the bill goes to both houses.
Yes.
However, there is a provision that has been put in that the heads of both coalitions should also be allowed to have a say on the final product before it goes before the houses. And then the leaders of the majority will and the minority of both houses will separately issue statements in support of that statement, of that bill or bills. What I'm seeing is an attempt to make sure that when the leadership has supported, when the leaders of majority and minority in both houses are supported, it means that the matter is just being shooed into the houses for easy passage.
Okay. So there is no possibility of the bill being rejected in Parliament.
If the process that I am referring to is driven that way, it looks like there's a deliberate effort to ensure that those pronouncements by the leadership of the coalitions, by leader of majority, by the separate teams of the panel, not select committee, are ensuring that members then don't come up with objections with attempts to amend whatever decision will have been negotiated.
Those bills, will they incorporate how the new commissioners will be selected or elected or appointed, plus the secretariat?
Exactly. That's why I said that we are supposed to make legal, policy, and institutional reforms. So when we are making institutional reforms, it means we might say that this is how we want the commissioners to be elected. There are two ways of looking at it. One way is to say that each general election should be having its own commissioners, for example, so that there will be changing commissioners with every election, because every time somebody loses, he feels that the commissioners might not be very nice. The other way is to structure it so that the commission can have more than one election to preside over. So all that will come out of what will inform the Joint Select Committee.
Okay.
Yes.
And so, Mr. Weganja, we now come to you, because when we discussed the IBC about 2 weeks ago, we heard that all existing initiatives within Parliament would be subsumed into this Joint Select Committee process. But that's not quite the case now, because there's a petition coming from Bungoma that your committee, the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, is hearing.
Yeah, indeed. The petition has already been prosecuted before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. The Auditor General has already appeared to support his PAC report that he brought to Parliament. We are meeting the commissioners next Tuesday to hear their side of the story, and thereafter we will retreat as a committee to consider whether the petitioner raises issues that satisfies us, that we should forward it, provide a report to the plenary of the House, and subsequently to ask the President to form a tribunal. So in essence, this select committee and the mandate that is outlined is not competent to listen or to consider a petition that is already under consideration by a departmental committee of Parliament. Secondly, you cannot subject these commissioners to a multiplicity of processes because of the doctrine of double jeopardy. You cannot have them appear before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, then let them appear before this select committee, then, and they have already made those appearances. The other mandate that this select committee has is the one for the removal of the IEBC commissioners if they find that they are complicit in any way, and then to formulate a legal mechanism for their vacation from office. From my point of view is that they cannot even do that, because you cannot start formulating a legal mechanism when it is entrenched in Article 251 of the Constitution. So that is also a mandate that also flops if the select committee is to also consider that.
Go ahead.
Then the mandate on institutional reforms and policy. Maybe there the select committee can come in. But even as they do, the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee has already been making laws together with the IBC and other stakeholders on legal reforms. Indeed, yesterday we were having a motion to create this select committee, and the next order, the next business in the order paper was the Elections Law Amendment Bill 2015, which comprises of a lot of legal reforms or amendments to the law. We have already done the Political Parties Act. We are also considering the IEBC Act, and what Mheshimiwa Boni Harare has said on the issue of how the other commissioners will be selected.
that is already under consideration by the departmental committee.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's...
so, Mr. Waiganjo, this is quite a bit that you're saying, and so let's break it down and make sure that we understand you carefully. First of all, are these your own individual positions, TNA, Jubilee? Who are you speaking for here, the committee?
This is the committee position. I mean, I'm talking about things that are going on within the committee.
Okay, and so the first question I'll ask you is, so when we hear about the Joint Select Committee being the product of negotiations rather between CORD and Jubilee, your position is that that's moot? Because
the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs have not been asked to stop what we do. Nobody has taken a mandate from the committee. We have not stopped considering the petition, for example, because it has already been prosecuted before us. So, in our view as a committee, we are continuing doing what we normally do. We have done that for the last 3 years, because we are the committee that oversights the IEBC. We are the committee that gives them a budget. Indeed, before this Hurabaru all came, we were even considering giving them a budget to purchase a building, you know, where they could exclusively have an institution that is independent in terms of its personnel and in terms of its institutional independence. So for us, although the CORD coalition has withdrawn or de-whipped its membership from the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, the standing order still allows us to proceed, because we are only required to have a quorum. So until and unless there is communication either from the House or from that negotiation to ask the Justice and Legal Affairs
Committee. Just a minute, let's go through all the issues that have been raised and then come back.
Yes, I want just some raising, in fact, in respect of that.
Okay.
But this motion was moved yesterday, discussed in the presence, in fact, maybe participation of the members of this Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. Why didn't you raise the objections on the floor or point out these conflicts of mandate?
If you look at my contribution yesterday in Parliament, I refused to give them my vote, and I also said what I'm saying, that the mandate that they are given are not proper, because they are already... In fact, I said the motion is defective, because you cannot create a select committee when there is already a departmental committee. I have nothing against the select committee, but then their mandate must be clear, because you can't come with the mandate of a departmental committee and purport to give that mandate to a select committee that was negotiated.
In terms of hierarchies, does a select committee supersede an existing departmental institutional committee like yours?
No, a departmental committee is the one charged with the oversight laws, for instance, of the IEBC.
But hold on, isn't the understanding of a select committee is that it is constituted to address a specific problem? Yes. In this case, electoral reforms, and the stalemate that we had over that.
If you look at the mandate, for instance, of looking into the IEBC and the manner in which they vacate office, then you'll understand what I'm talking about. Because if the intention is to have this select committee, then specifically look at that issue, then there should have been a communication to us, the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. You cannot proceed to hear this petition because there is being formed a select committee, and also then withdraw all the bills that are in the order paper that we are already considering today. In fact, the elections amendment bill will continue for debate this afternoon. And this debate is in the plenary, where members from both coalitions are debating it freely.
Mr. Halwalu.
You know, Waiganjo, with all due respect, what you are saying is simply what took place on the floor of the House yesterday in the National Assembly. Your minority view, which you are now advancing, was defeated yesterday out of that vote. You must know that the rule of procedure in any parliament is that the minority will have its say, but the majority will have its way. You have lost it. The select committee is responding to a specific issue. That does not mean that the Departmental Committee on Legal Affairs has been belittled. It has been left with the balance of things, and there are many. But this specific one, the select committee is responding to it. Let me tell you, the same thing was played out in 1997, when there was need for a special committee of parliament to respond to a challenge similar to what we are having today. That did not mean the positions taken by various departmental committees at that time then prevailed. I can assure you, now that the leadership of the coalitions has blessed the work that we are taking, not without resistance. You'll remember the role of the clergy. You'll remember the role of the ambassadors and high commissioners, how they played a critical role. What it simply means is that whatever you would have wished to say in the coming days, you would be told, just forget it.
Explain to me, Bonnie.
Yes.
We have a constitutional responsibility as Parliament.
Yes.
We are a departmental committee of Parliament.
Yes.
We are operating under the standing orders.
Yes.
We have a petition before us. That's a big thing. In fact, that is the only constitutional way of sending the commissioners home.
In fact,
because what will happen? Because any other way,
just a minute.
Any other way, in the event that those commissioners would want to challenge any other formulation by the select committee, they would go to court and get an injunction. Secondly, as long as you do not have a petition, and as long as the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee has not been asked to stop considering that petition because there is now a select committee, then we are on our constitutional path. You say it very well that it's a minority view, but I'm not saying that the select committee shouldn't be formed. What I'm saying is that the process that is ongoing right now in a departmental committee makes your select committee perfunctory.
Okay.
Maybe just a small comment, because you have referred to the issue of people going to court. The court has ruled before. In fact, I remember it was Justice Odunga and Unguti on the contested miscellaneous amendment of security laws. They ruled that the courts cannot be used to run Parliament, that Parliament has its own way of doing its business. So they will say, yesterday the National Assembly ran its own business and found that your minority view could not guide the process.
But remember, the same court asked the Speaker to readmit Opio and I, when in fact the standing order requires Parliament.
We'll come to that.
So I mean, that's a different issue.
My intervention here is in respect of what Mr. Waiganjo is saying. I consider that the departmental committee is a department of the House. It serves the plenary, in effect, because all its proceedings or findings come to the plenary. The decision or the motion that was passed yesterday was passed at plenary level. Wouldn't it appear, therefore, that the decision of the plenary holds sway over the work of the departmental committee, even though it was not directly in respect of what was being transacted by that committee at that point, but matters that generally cover what the departmental committee is handling? We would be hard pressed to say that a motion passed by the whole House is subservient to the departmental committee's performance.
We did have Senator Beatrice Elachi here speaking on the same, and we did ask her the same question. And it seems that, within your parliamentary procedures, there is an oversight, as Mr. Waiganjo points out, that there's been no communication to the JLAC committee telling them, this is what's going on, this is their mandate, this is your mandate, this is where they begin, this is where you stop. So that's one. But you seem to be going against the grain of the negotiations that have taken place, against the prevailing thinking of TNA and the wider Jubilee coalition, when you oppose the mandate of the Joint Select Committee.
The reason is, I'm not opposing the mandate of the Select Committee. What I'm emphasizing is that that mandate is being carried out by a parallel committee, which is a departmental committee of the House. So in other words, what I'm saying, this negotiated select committee, even if it was negotiated indeed, it has not yet considered other processes that are already going on in the House.
And so let's close this argument by saying that we're very sure that they're watching this program and they have taken note of your objections to, the lack of communication. But in terms of going forward, therefore, how do we see the work taking place? Can we expect any collaboration? David, what?
In fact, the work of the committee, the select committee, is not directly opposed or in contradiction
At
to
all.
what they're doing.
It seems to be a term.
They are prosecuting a petition which has come forth to Parliament, and it's a constitutional right of Nyukuri Barasa to submit that petition and to be processed in the manner it's being processed. The Select Committee is looking at overarching issues of electoral reform, at the center of which is IEBC. And so it might make recommendations, but those recommendations may not result in removal, because the removal process has to be carried out meticulously as per the Constitution, or other methods, say if the Commissioner decide to quit.
And just to support
Oiganjo,
Oiganjo, what Makali has said is a very serious statement on parliamentary practice. A decision of plenary cannot be changed by a departmental committee. But a decision of a departmental committee is normally changed by plenary. So whatever you decide, because the decision of creation of the Select Committee was a plenary decision, it overrides the departmental committee decision.
But remember, if we are to continue and look at this petition, because unless the petition is removed from our committee, then we are likely to continue if the members are satisfied that a tribunal is necessary, or a report. The report will still go to plenary, isn't it? And then if the plenary decides, then...
But the committee, the hearing of the petition may be put in abeyance pending the completion of the work
and so
within 30 days,
to the fact
so that then you can resume.
Maybe put in abeyance.
Maybe.
It hasn't happened.
Okay, fine. It hasn't happened. And so hopefully your people are leading, and that you are watching rather, and that you will take this information back to your speakers and various leaders. But also, we will end this turf war, because that's what it sounds like, and take a break. And hopefully when we come back, we can move forward and see what is practical around these electoral reforms. This is Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV. Parliament has approved the motion creating the Joint Select Committee on IEBC reforms. Is there enough time for the reforms ahead of next year's elections? Tell us using the SMS number 22422, or tweet us using the hashtag Cheche.